Greetings, everybody. Thank you for pressing play on this voice note. I just wanted to do a short little podcast, say hello, check in on a Thursday, and let you know how things are going with the voice liberation method. I am about to record the very last video of the whole course. It's a very big deal. I've been working really hard for several weeks, and I'm really proud of everything that's in here. Each week has, on average, about 75 minutes of content. There are several videos, short, to make it palatable. And each video there's one that in each week that has an explanation. Each week has something kind of psychological or mindset oriented, a vocal technique exercise, a speech exercise, and there's also a guided visualization for each week. And I put original music underneath the narration. And each guided visualization is inspired by a different chakra point, as well as a point on the hero's journey. And the guided visualizations are meant to make you feel like you are on this epic adventure of healing your voice. And so at the very beginning in week 1, we're starting with the root chakra of safety, and we're starting with answering the call to go on this journey to heal your voice. And then each week is an escalation of that journey until you finally arrive home at the very end. Change, different. And the idea with the guided visualizations is to change the mindset, because I do think a lot of vocal problems come from mindset. And we talk a lot about nervous system and fear responses. And then at the end of the day, the simplest way to put that is mindset. And this month's theme in the Healthy Voice community is resonance. Each month we choose a theme, and we just kind of go hard on that all month long. Each live session is inspired by it. I put out 3 short videos a week on that topic. And it's just, even the conversation prompts that go out every day are meant to inspire on the theme. And this one has been especially great. And I want to talk about this with you guys today. So I love using metaphors, and I love thinking about the voice as a metaphor, because while we do a lot of physical work and we talk a lot about physical technique, there's a lot of symbolism behind your voice that reveals a lot about who you are and how you feel about yourself. And so resonance is the ability to be heard across the room with ease. And so the ability to take advantage of your natural resonators, the bones in your face, the bones in your chest, your skull, to bounce the sound out easily so that people can hear you and you don't have to strain. You don't have to push anything. You speak with a relaxed body, and you know exactly where to place the vibrations in your face, and boom, there they go. Easy. I also like to think of resonance as a sparkle. Like it gives your voice this sparkly tone as opposed to a dull and flat tone. And I had this boyfriend a long time ago who was really sweet, and I still think the world of. And every time I would be in a bad mood, he would tell me that I had lost my sparkle. And I loved this. This would always cheer me up because I loved the image of like glitter, like being like absent from my aura where it normally was. Because I think that's such a great way to look at it. When you are feeling dull and you are feeling lethargic, your vocal tone changes. It goes to a flat tone. And in fact, whenever we work on resonance, one of the things we do is we lift our cheeks up into what I call the phony smile. And a phony smile gets the muscle and tissue out of the way of the cheekbones so that you can resonate. So just by lifting your cheeks into a smile, you take on a sparkly tone. You take on resonance. And so a lot of the questions I'm asking people in the community is things like, What is it that makes you unique? What is it that gets you excited? What are some topics that you feel like you could spend hours talking about with people? What is something that just lights you up? And then, as usual with the healthy voice, I'm always trying to help people who have lost their sparkle, who have lost their unique voice. And so then the next question, of course, would be, do you have access to all those things? Did you at any point stop doing those things? Stop talking about those things? Do you feel comfortable doing those things or talking about those topics with people? Do you have people in your life who you can share these things that you love? I really feel like in my own life as a voice worker, I can say with certainty that my voice, the sound of my voice, is directly connected to my state of mind and how my well-being, the state of my well-being. When I've been in moments where I'm surrounded by people who do not care that much about me, in fact, don't want me to succeed, my voice has suffered in those moments. And then when I've gotten rid of those people, my life got better and my voice took on its sparkle again. It's almost like it was safe to do so. One of the things I do in a resonance exercise on one of the videos on my channel, The Healthy Voice on YouTube, is I talk about how people who have been in relationships or family or work situations where they weren't allowed to smile or show joy, any kind of expression of joy, will have these very stiff smile muscles on their cheeks and on their chin and the upper lip. And so we do these massage exercises to relax those muscles. And it's really interesting. I remember when I was figuring this out, meaning I was going through my own recovery and kind of like figuring it out as I went, I noticed that I couldn't reach certain high notes anymore. And I was a soprano in all of my like classical years. I was always a first soprano. And at one point, I even got paid to be a first soprano. That is how comfortable I was reaching those super high pitches. And then when I was going through my recovery, I was trying to reach these high notes that should have been very easy for me, and I couldn't reach them. And I noticed that when I tried, my face muscles felt very uncomfortable, very stiff. And so I kept powering through. And I remember one day when I started to break through the tension, meaning I was pushing the muscles of my cheeks upwards because I knew that that's what I was supposed to do. They were just very stiff. And so at this one point in my process, I was starting to make some headway, but they weren't totally relaxed yet. It was sort of like at that breaking point where the muscle was going, oh, this is what you want me to do. And so I started breaking through and they started shaking. And it reminded me of times when I've been in a really intense yoga class and I'm towards the end of the class and I've worked really hard and my teacher has me in some kind of like really intense warrior two, or like some kind of a balancing pose where my muscles start shaking because they are so fatigued or they're so tense and I'm working them so hard. That's what happened to my face when I was working these smile muscles. And I realized it was because I lived for so many years around somebody who I had to be so careful about my facial expressions because he was so intuitive. It's like he could read my mind. And if he didn't want me to feel a certain emotion in that moment, and it was obvious I was feeling it, then I had to brace myself for some kind of a fight or some kind of a verbal attack. And I just learned how to be really careful with my facial muscles. I remember smiling a lot with my students, but I don't know. In that situation with that person, I had to be very careful. And so I share this with you because some of you may have experienced something like that, or perhaps you had to constantly smile. Perhaps it was not tolerated for you to be anything but cheerful. That's also going to put stress on your face and on your facial muscles. And so you may even find that your muscles shake as well. So I'm going to leave you with that. I'm going to keep this kind of short because I want to go ahead and finish up this video so that I can finally upload it all and publish it and get it ready to be delivered. My goal is to have it delivered by email to all the pre-orders at midnight on Friday night, midnight, since it's supposed to launch on the 7th. This is my first time doing this, and I've been doing my homework to make sure I do it all right. I really want it to launch smoothly. I don't want to get a bunch of emails from people being like, "Where's my course?" I'd feel so bad if that happens. So I'm doing my best to be prepared. And thank you so much to all of you who have pre-ordered it. You've made this process much, much easier for me. I really appreciate it. And I know you're going to love the course. I'm really proud of it. And it's full of things that I wish that I had had when I was going through my own vocal recovery. I even wish that I had had it back when I was in high school, when I was a classical voice student, because part of what I took from that experience when building this course was the things my teachers did not do that I wish they had done. For example, I always had chronic tension in my shoulders. Now, to be an opera singer, or just a high-level classical singer, you can't have any tension in your body. You can't have any tension in your shoulders, especially. And my teachers would get very frustrated with me. Even in my face. I remember I had all this tension in my face, and I learned one of the massage techniques from one of my teachers. So they weren't all absent-minded on this topic, but the majority of them would just get really frustrated with me when I couldn't relax my shoulders on demand. It's like they just had no understanding of why my shoulders would be so stiff. And I really wish that at least one of these teachers would have had some kind of empathy or at least some kind of like intuitive nature, some kind of like intuition meets compassion ability to realize that I was suffering and I was living in a very, like a chronically stressed out situation. I've shared in my Substack series, Singing Through the Shadows, that my father was a Vietnam veteran and he had severe PTSD to the point where my house was not safe for me to be in. You never knew when he was going to just lose his mind. And it was a dangerous place to be at times. And so I was living in a state of hypervigilance. And so that causes your shoulders to chronically stay lifted, because that's what the body does when you're in a fear response. It's trying to protect the neck and the vital organs. But, none of my teachers, it never crossed their mind that that was what I might have been going through or anything even like that. And so nobody ever thought to go a little deeper. It was just a different time and a different culture. Those were not the kind of people I was hanging out with. But now that I'm the one teaching the voice method, now I'm making sure to reach the people who are in a similar situation that I was in, because the truth is, it's one of those things that's still a little painful for me. I've accepted my life as it is, and I like my life a lot. But I do think sometimes about that girl who had so much promise. I had music scholarships. I had a lot of people who believed in me. And I probably could have gone to New York, and I probably could have had a career as a classical singer or a Broadway singer. But there was no way I was going to have one with that chronic tension in my back. And I knew it too, but I just didn't know how to release it. Thank God for massage school. Thank God for the 25 plus years of yoga, because now my body is in a state. And it took me a long time to get to this point. I would not have fixed this in the years during college. I think it would have been an uphill battle trying to get a classical singing career off the ground. So things work out the way they're supposed to work out. But there is a little part of me sometimes that thinks back to the way I felt when I would sing classical music and how much I loved it. And I get a little emotional sometimes. And so the way I deal with that old wound is I try to help other people today. So if there's somebody else out there who can learn from the things that I've learned over the years, and if I can help somebody if I could help a young person who is at that point in their life where they could go on to New York and have a career like that, I think, you know what? I think if I ever see that somebody was able to make a career for themselves because they were able to do some of my lessons, I think I would cry out of like a poetic justice kind of feeling, as if it's okay that I didn't go for it because my life experience got to help somebody else do it anyway. Well, I almost got a little emotional there. So thank you for listening. And if you're interested in getting the course, we still have 2 days. Today, as I post this, and then tomorrow, and then it's going to full price, which is still going to be a really good price. So if you missed it, it's okay. It's still going to be up there. You can still get it. Thanks for listening. Talk to you guys soon.